Screenshots last forever. Part 1. The buzz. The phone on my desk did not ring. It did not play my favorite song. It just buzzed. But it was not a normal buzz. It was fast and angry, like a trapped insect hitting the wood. Bzz, bzz, bzz. Then it stopped for 1 second and started again. Bzz, bzz. I was lying on my bed, looking at the white ceiling. It was Tuesday morning, 7 a.m. Usually, this is a quiet time. Usually, I slowly wake up, think about breakfast, and look for my socks. But today the room felt different. The air felt heavy. I sat up and looked at the phone. The screen lit up with a bright light. It showed 20 new notifications, then 30, then 50. My heart started to beat very fast, like a drum in my chest. Thump, 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 thump. I knew what it was. I didn't want to know, but I knew. Yesterday I made a mistake. It was a small mistake, I thought. I was sad, and I was lonely. So I trusted the wrong person. I trusted Marcus. Marcus was the cool guy, the guy everyone wanted to be friends with. I wanted him to like me. So I sent him a text message. It was a photo of me, crying, with a text that said, "I feel like I am disappearing." It was a weak moment. It was a secret. I reached out and picked up the phone. My hand was shaking. I unlocked the screen. The first message was from a number I didn't know. "Nice face, crybaby." The next one was from a guy in my math class. "Is this real?" "Hafifi, ha ha." Then I saw it. I opened the group chat for our grade. There were 200 people in that chat, and there, right at the top, was my photo. Marcus had forwarded it. He added a caption. "Leo is crying for his mommy. Someone give him a tissue." I felt cold. It was not a cold from the weather. It was a cold that started in my stomach and moved to my fingers and toes. I couldn't breathe. I dropped the phone on the bed as if it were burning hot. Ding, ding, buzz. It didn't stop. The internet never sleeps. The internet never forgets. "Leo, breakfast?" My mom called from the kitchen downstairs. Her voice was happy. She didn't know. She was making coffee and toast, thinking today was a normal Tuesday. She didn't know that her son's life was over. "I'm not hungry," I whispered. But she couldn't hear me. I had to get dressed. I had to go to school. If I stayed home, it would look worse. If I hid, they would win. That is what my dad always said. Face your problems. But my dad's problems were about paying bills or fixing the car. His problems were not about 200 people laughing at his deepest sadness. I put on my black hoodie. I pulled the hood up over my head. I wanted to be invisible. I wanted to be a ghost. I grabbed my backpack and looked at the phone again. 150 notifications. I put the phone in my pocket. It felt heavy, like a stone. It buzzed against my leg. Zit. Every buzz was a laugh. Every buzz was a person pointing a finger at me. I walked downstairs. My legs felt weak. I grabbed an apple from the kitchen table and ran out the door before my mom could see my face. "Have a good day, sweetie," she shouted. A good day. The words sounded like a joke. The walk to the bus stop is usually 5 minutes. Today, it felt like 5 hours. The morning sun was too bright. It hurt my eyes. I saw a group of students waiting at the corner. I knew them. There was Sarah, Mike, and Jenny. They were looking at their phones. Then Sarah looked up. She saw me. She nudged Mike. Mike looked up. He smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was a sharp, cruel smile. He whispered something to Jenny, and they all laughed. I stopped walking. I wanted to turn around. I wanted to run back to my bed and hide under the blankets forever. But my feet kept moving forward. I was a robot. I walked past them. I didn't look at them. I looked at the ground. I looked at my dirty sneakers. "Hey, Leo," Mike called out. His voice was loud. "Are you okay? Do you need a tissue?" Laughter erupted behind me. It sounded like broken glass. I didn't answer. I just kept walking. The school bus arrived with a loud screech of brakes. The doors opened. I climbed the steps. Usually the bus is noisy with people talking and shouting. But as I walked down the aisle, the noise changed. It didn't stop, but it became a whisper. "Shh, look, it's him. That's the guy." Heads turned, eyes followed me. I felt their eyes on my back, on my neck, on my face. They were like physical weights. 1 pound, 10 pounds, 100 pounds. I could feel the weight pressing me down into the floor. I found an empty seat near the back. I sat down and put my bag on my knees. I hugged the bag. It was a shield. My phone buzzed again in my pocket. Buzz. Buzz. I took it out. I wanted to turn it off. I wanted to throw it out the window. But I couldn't stop looking. It was an addiction. I needed to know what they were saying. I opened social media. The photo was everywhere now. It wasn't just in the group chat. People had edited it. Someone put a baby bottle in my mouth. Someone else put clown makeup on my face. It had hundreds of likes. Likes. People liked my pain. They clicked a little heart button to say, "Yes, this is funny. This suffering is good entertainment." A notification popped up from Marcus. "Sorry, bro. It was just a joke. Don't be so sensitive." I stared at the words. Just a joke. My thumb hovered over the power button. The bus turned a corner, and the school building appeared in the window. It looked like a castle. A castle where I was the prisoner. The bus stopped. The doors opened. The other students stood up. They were a river of noise and movement. I stayed in my seat. I waited until the last person got off. The driver looked at me in the big mirror. "You getting off, kid?" he asked. "Yes," I said. My voice sounded strange. It sounded dry and old. I stood up. I stepped off the bus and onto the pavement. The schoolyard was full of people. Hundreds of them. And in my pocket, the machine continued to vibrate. It was a heartbeat of hate. Psst. Psst. I took a deep breath. The air tasted like car exhaust and fear. I took one step toward the main doors, then another. This was it, the hallway, the gauntlet. I put my hand in my pocket and gripped the phone. I squeezed it hard. I squeezed it until my knuckles turned white. "Okay," I whispered to myself, "okay." I pushed the power button and held it. The screen went black. The buzzing stopped. But the silence was worse. Because now I had to face the noise of the real world. Part 2. The hallway. I stood there for a moment. The phone was off, but I could still feel it. It was a ghost in my pocket. It was a phantom buzz against my leg. Bzz, bzz. It wasn't real, but my brain thought it was. It was like when you take off your glasses, but still feel the weight on your nose. I walked through the double doors. The school hallway was bright and loud. It smelled like floor cleaner and cheap perfume. Lockers slammed shut. Bang, bang. People shouted hello. Someone dropped a book. But underneath all the normal noise, there was something else. A whisper. A giggle. A silence that followed me. My locker was number 304. It was in the middle of the hallway, near the science lab. It felt like a mile away. I kept my head down. I looked at the floor tiles. White, black, white, black. I counted my steps. 1, 2, 3. If I looked up, I would see them. I would see their eyes. I would see the pity in some, the cruelty in others. "Hey, crybaby!" The voice was loud. It came from my left. I didn't look. I knew that voice. It was Jason. He was on the football team with Marcus. He was big and loud and thought everything was funny. "Is that your new look?" Jason laughed. The sad clown. I felt my face get hot. My cheeks burned. It wasn't just embarrassment, it was anger. A hot, burning anger that started in my chest. Why? Why did they care? It was just a photo. It was just a moment of weakness. Everyone has moments of weakness. Everyone cries. But not everyone gets caught. I reached my locker. My hands were shaking so much I couldn't remember the combination. Left to 12. Right to 24. Left to... What was it? I tried again. 12? 24? 8. The locker didn't open. It was stuck. I pulled the handle. Nothing. "Need help with that?" I froze. It was Marcus. I slowly turned my head. He was leaning against the locker next to mine. He looked relaxed. He was wearing his blue jacket, the one everyone liked. He was smiling, but his eyes weren't smiling. They looked empty. "Go away," I said. My voice was quiet. "Come on, Leo," Marcus said. He put a hand on my shoulder. I flinched. I pulled away as if his hand were fire. "It was just a joke, man. Don't be so dramatic." "You sent it to everyone," I said. "Everyone." "I sent it to the group chat," he shrugged. It's funny. You gotta admit, it's a little funny. You look like a baby." "I trusted you," I said. The words tasted bitter in my mouth. "I trusted you." Marcus laughed. "Trust? Leo, this is high school. There are no secrets here, only screenshots." He held up his phone. The screen was bright. It showed the photo again. My face, red and tear-stained. And below it, a new comment from someone I didn't even know. "Loser." "Delete it," I said. "Why?" Marcus asked. "It's already out there. You can't delete the internet, Leo. It's forever. Screenshots last forever." He laughed again and walked away. He high-fived Jason as he passed. They disappeared into the crowd. I stood alone by my locker. The hallway was emptying. The first bell rang. Ring. It was time for class. Biology. Mr. Henderson's class. We were studying cells. Cells have membranes to protect them. They have walls to keep the bad things out. I wished I had a wall. I wished I had a membrane. But I was open. Everyone could see inside me. I walked to the classroom. The door was open. Mr. Henderson was writing on the whiteboard. "Cell division," he wrote. I walked in. The room went silent. 20 heads turned. 20 pairs of eyes looked at me. Some people whispered behind their hands. Some people smirked. Some people looked away, pretending they didn't see me. There was only one empty seat. It was in the front row, right in the middle. It was the spotlight. I walked to the seat and sat down. I put my backpack on the floor. I took out my notebook and a pen. I stared at the blank page. White paper. Clean. Empty. No comments. No likes. Just paper. "Good morning, everyone," Mr. Henderson said. He turned around. He looked at the class. Then he looked at me. His eyes lingered for a second. Did he know? Did the teachers know? Of course they knew. They had phones too. "Today, we are going to talk about how cells copy themselves," he said. "How one thing becomes two, and two become four, and four become 8. I thought about the photo. 1 share, 2 shares, 4 shares, 8 shares. It was like a virus. It was multiplying. It was infecting everyone. My pocket buzzed. I jumped. I touched my pocket. But the phone was off. I knew it was off. I had turned it off on the bus. But the feeling was there. Psst. Psst. I reached into my pocket and took out the phone. The screen was black. It was dead. But I felt it. My leg felt it. It was a phantom vibration. My body was wired to the network. I couldn't disconnect. I put the phone on the desk, face down. A black rectangle of plastic and glass. It looked innocent. It looked harmless. But it was a weapon. It was a grenade that had exploded in my life. Mr. Henderson continued talking. Mistakes in copying DNA can cause mutations, he said. If the mistake is not fixed, it stays. It becomes part of the organism forever. Forever. Marcus said it too. Screenshots last forever. I looked around the room. To my right, Sarah was texting under her desk. To my left, Mike was scrolling through something. They were all connected. They were all in the digital world. And I was trapped there, frozen in a bad moment, while my real body sat here in a plastic chair. I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around. It was a girl named Chloe. I didn't know her well. She was quiet. She sat in the back. She slid a piece of folded paper onto my desk. A real note. Not a text. Not a DM. A piece of paper. My heart hammered. Was this another joke? A drawing of a clown? A nasty word? I unfolded the paper slowly. My hands were still shaking. Inside, there was a drawing. It was a simple sketch of a boy with a hoodie, looking at a phone. But he wasn't crying. He was looking up, and above him, she had drawn a sun. Under the drawing, she had written 3 words. It passes. Ignore them. I looked at Chloe. She didn't smile. She just nodded, once, and looked back at her notebook. I looked at the note again. It passes. Could it pass? Could the storm end? I looked at the phone on my desk. It was still black. It was still silent. Mr. Henderson was drawing a cell on the board. The cell has a nucleus, he said. The control center. I touched the black screen of my phone. I had the power button. I had the control. I picked up the phone. I didn't turn it on. I put it deep into my backpack, under my gym clothes, under my old lunch, under my heavy textbooks. I buried it. For the first time in 2 hours, I took a deep breath. The air in the classroom was stale, but it filled my lungs. Maybe the internet was forever. Maybe the photo would always be there, floating in some server farm in the desert. But I was here. I was in this room. I was breathing. The bell rang for the end of class. People stood up. The noise returned. The chatter. The laughter. I stood up too. I put my notebook in my bag. I zipped it shut. Hey, Leo. It was Jason again. He was standing by the door, blocking the exit. He had his phone out. He was recording a video. Give us a smile for the fans, he shouted. Cry for the camera. A circle formed around us. Phones were raised. 10 cameras, 20 cameras. All pointed at me. Like guns. I felt the panic rising again, the heat in my face, the shaking in my hands. They wanted a reaction. They wanted the sequel. Leo Cries, Part 2. I looked at Jason. I looked at the lens of his camera. It was a black eye, unblinking. I remembered Chloe's note. It passes. Ignore them. I tightened my grip on my backpack strap. I didn't look down. I didn't hide in my hoodie. I looked Jason in the eye. Move, I said. It wasn't a shout. It wasn't a whisper. It was just a word. But it was firm. Jason blinked. He was surprised. He lowered the phone a little bit. He expected me to run. He expected me to cry. He didn't expect me to speak. What? He said. Move, I said again. I took a step forward. The circle went quiet. The phones were still there, but the hands holding them wavered. Jason looked around at his friends. He wanted them to laugh. He wanted backup. But they were waiting to see what would happen. For a second, nobody moved. The air was thick with tension. It was a standoff. The boy with the viral photo versus the boy with the loud voice. Then Jason laughed. It was a nervous laugh, a fake laugh. "Whatever, dude," he said. "You're boring." He stepped aside. The circle broke. The path was open. I walked through. I didn't run. I walked. I could feel their eyes on me still. I could feel the cameras recording my back. But I kept walking. I walked out of the classroom. I walked down the hall. I walked past the lockers, past the principal's office, past the cafeteria. I needed air. Real air. I pushed open the heavy doors at the end of the hallway and stepped outside. Part 3. The real world. The heavy metal door clicked shut behind me. The sound was final. Inside, there was noise, judgment, and hundreds of eyes staring at screens. Outside, there was just the wind. I walked to the edge of the school parking lot. The concrete was cold and hard, but it felt real. I sat down on a low brick wall near the empty bike racks. My hands were still shaking a little bit. It was the adrenaline. My body was ready for a fight, but there was no one to fight. There was only the silence. I took a deep breath. The air smelled of rain and wet grass. It was a clean smell. It was very different from the smell of the hallway. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the phone again. It was heavy in my hand. It was a black mirror. I saw my reflection in the dark screen. I looked tired. My eyes were red. My hair was messy. But I was there. I thought about turning it on, just for a second. Just to see. How many comments now? Did Marcus text again? Did anyone defend me? My thumb hovered over the power button. It was so easy. One press, and I would be back in the digital world. One press, and I would be the crying boy again. But then I remembered the classroom. I remembered Jason's face when I told him to move. He was confused. He didn't know what to do when I didn't play his game. He needed my fear. Without my fear, his joke wasn't funny. I put the phone back in my pocket. I didn't turn it on. I looked up. Across the street there was a small park. An old man was walking a dog. The dog was sniffing a tree. A woman was pushing a baby in a stroller. Two birds were fighting over a piece of bread on the sidewalk. They didn't know. The old man didn't know about the photo. The woman didn't care about the group chat. The birds didn't have Facebook. To them, I was just a boy sitting on a wall. I wasn't a meme. I wasn't a joke. I was just a person. The world was so big. The internet felt huge when you were inside it. It felt like the whole universe. But out here, sitting on the cold bricks, the internet felt small. It was just a bunch of wires and signals. It wasn't the sky. It wasn't the trees. It wasn't real life. I stood up. I wasn't going back to class today. I couldn't. Not yet. I started to walk. I didn't go home. My mom would ask questions, and I didn't have answers yet. I just walked. I walked past the park, past the grocery store, past the library. My phone buzzed again. Bzzz. And again. Bzzz. It was angry. It wanted my attention. It was like a baby crying for milk. But I just let it buzz. Let them talk, I thought. Let them share the screenshot. Let them laugh. The photo would be there forever. Marcus was right about that. In 10 years, maybe someone would find it. Maybe it would pop up on a memories page. I couldn't change that. I couldn't delete the past. The mistake was made, but I realized something important as I walked down the quiet street. A screenshot is a frozen moment. It is 1 second of a life. It is flat. It has no voice. It has no future. I am not flat. I am not frozen. I am moving. I walked faster. The cold air felt good on my face. My legs felt strong. I thought about tomorrow. Tomorrow would be hard. Walking into school would be hard. The jokes would continue for a week, maybe a month. High school is slow and painful, but it would pass, like Chloe said in her note. It passes. New things would happen. Someone else would make a mistake. Someone else would fall down the stairs or say something stupid. The internet is hungry. It needs new food. It would eat me for a while, and then it would move on to the next person, and I would still be here. I stopped at a bridge over a small creek. The water was running fast over the rocks. It was loud and clear. I took the phone out of my pocket one last time. It was still vibrating every few seconds. Bzz. Bzz. I looked at it. I wasn't afraid of it anymore. It was just a tool. It was a machine. It didn't control me. I pressed the volume buttons on the side. I held them down until the phone went into Do Not Disturb mode. The buzzing stopped. Silence. I didn't throw the phone into the water. That happens in movies, but in real life, phones are expensive, and I needed it to call my mom later. Instead, I put the silent phone back in my pocket. It was just a piece of metal now. It had no power over me. I looked at the water. I watched a leaf float down the stream. It went under the water, spun around a rock, and then popped back up. It kept going. "Okay," I said aloud. My voice was clear. "Okay." I turned away from the bridge and started the long walk home. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in purple and orange. It was beautiful, and I didn't take a picture of it. I just watched it. I kept it for myself. Some things don't need to be shared. Some things are just for you. The screenshot might last forever, but so would I. The end. And that is the end of Leo's story. It is a story about a very modern kind of fear, but also about finding the strength to walk away from the noise. I hope you enjoyed the emotional journey. Now, to make sure you truly understood the details, let's break down some of the most interesting language I used. We are going to look at 10 challenging words and 10 useful phrases that will help take your English to the next level. Key vocabulary. Let's start with the vocabulary. Notification. The screen lit up with 20 new notifications. A notification is a message or alert that tells you something new has happened. In this story, it refers to the updates on Leo's phone. But you can also get a notification from your bank or a calendar reminder for a meeting. Invisible. I put on my hoodie because I wanted to be invisible. To be invisible means impossible to see. Leo wanted to disappear so nobody could look at him. In real life, you might wish you were invisible when you are embarrassed, or scientists might study invisible gases like oxygen. Cruel. Mike smiled, but it was a sharp, cruel smile. Cruel means causing pain or suffering to others on purpose. It is the opposite of kind. A person can be cruel, like the bullies in the story, or life can be cruel when bad things happen to good people. Erupted. Laughter erupted behind me. To erupt means to explode or burst out suddenly and violently. We usually use this for volcanoes, but in English, we often use it for loud noises like laughter, cheering, or shouting that start very quickly. Aisle. As I walked down the aisle, the noise changed. An aisle is a passage between rows of seats. You walk down the aisle on a school bus, on an airplane, or in a church during a wedding. It is the walking space in the middle. Bitter. The words tasted bitter in my mouth. Bitter describes a sharp, unpleasant taste, like strong coffee or lemon peel. However, we also use it to describe an emotion. If you feel bitter, you feel angry and hurt because you think you were treated unfairly. Hovered. My thumb hovered over the power button. To hover means to stay in one place in the air without moving forward or backward. A helicopter hovers, a bird can hover, and your finger can hover over a button when you are hesitating to press it. Membrane. Cells have membranes to protect them. A membrane is a thin skin or layer that covers or connects parts of an organism. In biology, it protects the cell. Leo uses this word metaphorically because he wishes he had a protective layer to keep the emotional pain out. Phantom. It was a phantom buzz against my leg. A phantom is a ghost or something that seems real but is not there. Leo felt the phone vibrating even when it was off. We also use this in medicine, like phantom pain, where a person feels pain in a limb that is no longer there. Adrenaline. My hands were shaking. It was the adrenaline. Adrenaline is a chemical your body produces when you are scared, angry, or excited. It gives you sudden energy to fight or run. You feel adrenaline before a big test, a sports match, or during a scary movie. Key phrases. Now, let's look at 10 phrases that add color and depth to the story. Sensory overload. The chapter focuses on the sensory overload of his phone buzzing. Sensory overload happens when your 5 senses, sight, hearing, touch, smell, taste, get too much information at once. It feels overwhelming. You might experience sensory overload in a very loud, bright, and crowded shopping mall. Face your problems. That is what my dad always said. Face your problems. To face your problems means to deal with a difficult situation directly, instead of running away or hiding from it. It is about being brave and confronting the issue head-on. Physical weights. Their eyes felt like physical weights. Physical weights are heavy objects you lift at the gym to build muscle. In the story, Leo feels the pressure of people staring at him as if it were a heavy object pressing him down toward the floor. Screech of brakes. The bus arrived with a loud screech of brakes. The screech of brakes is that high-pitched, unpleasant noise a car or bus makes when it stops very suddenly. It is a common sound in city life and usually makes you pay attention. Broken glass. Laughter erupted, sounding like broken glass. This is a descriptive phrase, or a simile. Comparing laughter to broken glass means the sound was sharp, harsh, and painful to hear. It wasn't happy laughter. It was dangerous and hurting laughter. Wired to. My body was wired to the network. To be wired to something means to be connected to it, usually by cables. In this context, it means Leo felt mentally and physically connected to the internet, as if he were a machine plugged into a wall. Do not disturb. I put the phone into do not disturb mode. Do not disturb is a setting on your phone that silences calls and notifications. We also use this phrase on signs in hotels when you want privacy in your room. Frozen moment. A screenshot is a frozen moment. A frozen moment describes a specific second in time that has stopped or been captured, usually in a photograph. It means that the action is stuck in that second forever and cannot change or move. Stare at. Hundreds of eyes staring at screens. To stare at means to look at something for a long time with your eyes wide open. It is more intense than just looking. You might stare at a computer screen when you are tired, or stare at a person if you are surprised. Let them talk. I thought, let them talk. Let them talk is a phrase used when you decide not to care about the gossip or bad things people are saying about you. It means you are choosing to ignore their words and continue with your life. Comprehension quiz. Excellent work. Now that we have unlocked the language of the story, I want to see how well you followed the plot. I am going to ask you 3 questions about what happened to Leo. I want you to listen to the questions, pause the video, and write your answers in the comments section below. Do not worry if your grammar isn't perfect. Just try your best to express your ideas. Here is question number 1. Why did Leo feel like the school bus was different than usual on this specific morning? Question number 2. In the classroom, a girl named Chloe gave Leo a piece of paper. What was drawn on it, and what did the note say? And question number 3. At the very end of the story, Leo stood on a bridge. What did he decide to do with his phone? Pause the video right now. Think about it. Write your answers down. Okay, are you ready? Let's check your answers. For the first question, Leo felt the bus was different because the usual noise of people talking turned into whispers and silence when he entered. He felt everyone looking at him because they had seen the embarrassing photo. For the second question, Chloe gave Leo a drawing of a boy looking up at the sun, not crying. The note said, "It passes. Ignore them." It was a message of hope. And for the final question, Leo decided not to throw his phone into the water. Instead, he put it on Do Not Disturb mode and put it back in his pocket. He realized the phone was just a tool, and he was in control of it, not the other way around. How did you do? Did you get all 3 correct? If you found this story moving and the vocabulary lesson helpful, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you want more stories like this to help you master English, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a lesson. Keep reading, keep practicing, and remember, mistakes are just moments. They don't last forever. See you in the next video.